They walked the darkest corners of Los Angeles crime. They stared evil in the face and brought killers to justice as the city held their breath.
March 17th of 1985, and that was my case. 40 minutes after, there's another murder in Monterey Park right next door.
We had 6 or 7 different serial killers at that time. Overall, I think there were like 22 cases from the late 70s into the 90s. The media's going to be all over this. We need a DA. We're not going to get anywhere without warrants.
We found some footprints around my house. This was after he had dumped the Avia shoes, so we ended up getting some surveillance on my house. They were watching the house, making sure that we were protected.
Some people think that's glamorous, chasing down Ramirez and the Night Stalker, O.J, Wonderland killings. I'm still shocked how many people commit murder and think they're getting away with it, or that they will. They walked the darkest corners of Los Angeles crime. They stared evil in the face and brought killers to justice as the city held their breath. Today, for the first time, two of the most legendary homicide detectives in Los Angeles, Tom Lange of LAPD, the Wonderland killings, O.J., and so many more, and Gil Carrillo, the brilliant mind who helped take down Richard Ramirez and the Night Stalker. They are here today telling stories that have never been heard, and you picked the right day to join us here on Tom Zenner Scandal. Welcome, everybody, the one and only Kato Kaelin right over here. And man, we've been wanting to do this, guys, and what a treat it is for Kato and I and for all our viewers to have you in the room at the same time.
Let's interrogate them.
We got some questions we want to ask you guys today, all right? And don't even think of bringing in your lawyers. Now, Tom, I got to tell you this. We're going to talk a little bit some of the differences between LA County Sheriffs, LAPD, but Gil introduced me and Kato to this great phrase, getting in the cups. And, you know, you got to break down the case, talk to your colleagues, rehash things. Did you guys have a phrase for that when you get to the bar? Breaking, you know?
Get to the bar?
Well, you know, go to the bar, have some drinks, and get into the cups.
Drinks?
Okay, I like that too.
Did you drink?
Once.
Every now and again, we would share a cocktail.
Hey.
Other than that,
Okay, so what do we get? I thought the title would be perfect. Effin merlot, right? Okay, we got that. And guys, I thought this meeting
This is great.
is too old school and too cool to have wine glasses. We're going with these crystal glasses.
Wow.
There you go.
Okay. And we promised Gil when he came back we're going to get in the cups. So, hey, man,
You can't beat this.
we're going to have some right here.
Tom, you get the
Done that
wine.
before?
Code 7.
I'll make sure I take care of the tip.
Okay. So, let's go. Tom, you can have a little if you want. Okay.
Move down there. I'm going to put this in here.
Okay, great.
We can still toast.
Kato, I got you. Don't worry, I'm coming back with more.
Look at Gil wants to smell it first. Come on, Gil.
All right. Hey, a quick toast to all the
Okay.
great things you did for this city, guys. Cheers, and for being
Cheers,
here.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Effin merlot. Not bad. Hey, you know what? It's
I
crazy.
think you need a refill already.
Okay, it's coming.
I
Hey,
think
by
this is
the-
going to be a really good show, Tom.
God done
You know
good.
what? We're taping this on the day that Malcolm Jamal Warner died, right? OJ, we got all these connections here. He played A.C. Cowlings.
Yeah, it's just-
it's kind of crazy. So we're going to be talking about all the old school cases that they covered and just, you know, the procedures that they did. And, you know, we'll just let these legends like kick some things around. But this is...
it's gonna be like a pissing match.
Well, I hope
Right?
so.
I
After
hope
the
so,
wine
too.
flows. Hey guys, did your paths ever cross on a case? Right? Because you worked some of the most high profile ones. You had different jurisdictions. You worked for different departments. Did you ever cross paths in a case?
Personally, I don't recall a case where we crossed paths, but we worked the same cases together. Some of our guys did. My unit, the Homicide Special Unit, would work serial killing cases and whatnot, or high profile cases. And Gil, worked high profile cases with the sheriffs. We had a lot in common because LA County is huge. LA City is huge, and a lot of the cases would cross boundaries. We talked about that earlier, the lack of communication. Here might be an exception with the sheriffs in these major cases because I think the communication was a lot better because we knew one another and we'd worked before. We could just call somebody up and we're on the same page from day one, which was a great advantage. And Gil was there for most of them.
I can remember sitting down with our counterparts over on the Blue Meanie side, Paul Tippin and Leroy Orozco, And we just had a meeting. And we just said, okay, we don't give a shit about the brass. We don't care about anybody else. We don't care who makes an arrest. We don't care what you do. Let's just agree to communicate on a daily basis. And anything comes up, we'll talk between us. And we had a great work. I haven't had a working relationship like that with guys from my unit. You know, it was really good. And fortunately, in between LAPD headquarters and Sheriff's Homicide, where we were, right about the middle, there was an establishment called the Code 7, and
Code 7.
we'd hold meetings there.
What is so? Code 7 is a. Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead. Give it a guess.
Robbery.
Sorry.
No. Well, give me two more. All right. Do you want to take a guess?
Someone crossed the center line driving down the 405.
I'm going to say jaywalking.
What's a Code 7, Gil?
Code 7 is request to go eat. After you go eat, and it just so happened at this establishment, they also sold spiritus fermenti. And so we'd go have spirits, get into the cups, have some good food, go there for lunch on a daily basis. The original owner, Glenn Hill, who was a really nice guy, and we had so much fun with him. And a gentleman from Israel took it over, Dove. I don't remember Dove's last name. And he went ahead and he actually named a sandwich. It was my favorite. He redid the menu and he named the sandwich Gil Carrillo Team 3 because that was it. So I made their menu for a while. Now the building's gone, everything's gone.
Tom, you have a sandwich?
What is your sandwich? What's that?
It was egg bread, grilled with roast beef, Ortega chili, and cheese on the inside. Oh, it was delicious. God, it was so good. And tomato.
Carrillo.
There's sliced tomato in there too. It was just.
That's your own sandwich.
Yeah, that was good. It was my own sandwich.
I had one too during the trial.
Oh, is that right?
Just 2 pieces of white bread, nothing in it. There was
The Kato.
Yeah, they hurt my feelings. Trust me.
Gil mentions that, and that we'd get together, usually off duty, and have a couple of shots here and there, and then we'd talk. That's not only a good idea for morale, whatever. That's important, and I don't think people realize how important it is. Because you talk about cases, you're free to talk about them. You feel better. You loosen up.
Right.
And those little talks and those little get-togethers, and a lot of times led to some very good outcomes in a lot of big cases. People don't realize there's cops drinking. I mean, that's a terrible thing and everything else. It's not if it works. You didn't have the media to worry about. You didn't have the brass to worry about. And you would follow up on what you said. It never got to the point where it was out of hand or anything else. But those meetings, and you think back now just how important those things were and what they led to.
Taking the edge off, too, right?
I can remember. You need to decompress a little bit, the stuff you go through. And I can remember Bud Arcee.
Yeah.
And his partner, God, I can say
Jerry Stevens. Yeah.
Jerry Stevens would get out there and we'd be all around the table. This is LAPD and the Sheriff's Homicide, and we're all together having a good time. And they'd bring out their kazoos. And you'd put money in the pot. And they'd get out there, they'd play a song, and whoever gets the song wins the money. Well, all that meant was you win the money, it's your turn to buy. So nobody wanted anything. We'd laugh and carry on.
Sure, get reinvested.
And there was some great, that got us through many a night.
The thing that separates you two, though, is you work such high-profile cases. I mean, two of the biggest cases ever in crime.
Let me say, one of the differences, you touched it, we're going to see some of the differences. LAPD had homicide investigators at every station. But then they had the big boys from Dover, which was robbery homicide downtown. That's where all the high profile stuff went. Mm-hmm. Sheriff's Department, we had one homicide bureau, and we didn't have them at the station. We had one homicide bureau, and so you worked on a rotation. So whenever you're up. Whatever case came in, that was your case. And unless it was something really special, which happened after the Night Stalker case, then the captain would sit there and say, well, I want Gil and Frank on this one.
Mm-hmm.
They'd pull you out of rotation. But for the most part, it was all luck of the draw with us. Or
bad luck of the draw.
Or bad luck.
Yeah. And I think that's what people are curious about. How do these cases get assigned? Like Ramirez, for instance, he was committing murders all over LA. But how did LA sheriffs get that first and keep it? And was LAPD involved at all? You guys can talk about that.
Not in the beginning. That was March 17th of 1985 was the first one. And that was my case. And we had no idea. I had no idea this. You should be working everyone like it's going to turn into a serial case. You give it everything you have. So we started doing that, and then we find out the next day that 40 minutes after my murder, there's another murder in Monterey Park right next door. So it just jumped. And if you see something coming up in our desk, if it was the same, they'd say, Gil, Frank, this looks like it may be connected. You take it, and that's how we bounced around. Right. And that's how they assigned them in the bureau. Mm-hmm. In our bureau. Now, I would assume that just like in OJ, the local detectives got it first. Right. And then when they realize it's OJ, this is going to be a high profile. Let's call in. And I call them the big boys from Dover in the movie MASH. When they go into the hospital and they say, hey, here we are, the big boys from Dover. These are the big boys from Dover. And,
good phrase. Yeah.
And it was just a great working relationship.
Well, LA had, at the time, I think 18 geographical divisions. Today, I think it was like 22. And each division had their own homicide unit, but they weren't necessarily homicide cops. Like you mentioned Simpson, the two that got called out there weren't homicide cops. They're detectives. And basically, they to secure the scene and don't go any further. The decision is made by the brass who's going to take this over. And, of course, again, it's the old thing we talked about earlier, the bureaucracy, considerations first, imagery, and this type of crap. Again, I can't say this too much. When we get together, leave us the hell alone. We'll talk these things out. And if we screw up, it's on us. Chances are we're not going to screw up. And all the years we worked these cases, there were no screw-ups like that. Things got done. Things do not get done if you go through the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So Gil, for you, did you know, first of all, did you have offices like, was your office near like a Marcia Clark prosecutor and Phil Vannetter? Like, did you know these guys? Did you actually ever meet these people?
I could remember, I hate this, I could remember Phil Vannetter more because he was a little more outgoing. Tom is very straight, very good, confident, and he's a leader. And Phil is more at my level. Let's just have some fun. I have fun wherever I go. I don't care what it is.
Let's have fun fighting killers.
I don't care if I'm working a murder. You have a remorse.
So then you knew Phil. Okay.
Yeah, you have a morose sense of humor, and I laugh at everything. And Phil Van Aert, we get over at the 7 and we drink. I remember speaking with Phil during the, I think it was Phil, it may have even been you, calling in a clue on the OJ case. And I just said, Phil, and I said, how's it going? I said, here's this clue. And he said, okay. I said, so I had to call it in. He said, all right, not a problem. I said, how's it going? And he just said, Gil, if it were anybody else other than O.J. Simpson, this had been done deal already. There was so much evidence. He was I said, okay, well, I'll be waiting. And we talked. That was it. Communication was everything.
Mm-hmm. So, and then, Tom, you would deal with Marcia Clark all the time, or you could hear her. Did she have a potty mouth? Was there ever swearing in the hallways where you could hear like, oh, something got her?
Yeah, well, that's just her personality. She's a meat eater, okay? She's a tough lady, very bright. I had her on a case before Simpson that we worked on for about a year and a half. It was a murder for hire. And we talked about the Marshall case earlier, but she had a case similar to that, and she pulled the rug out from under me and didn't tell me. So I've got a witness out there running around whose life was in jeopardy. Probably still is, because she didn't tell me she had dropped the case. She went through Phil. She said, Phil, would you tell Tom? Well, this was just when the Simpson thing broke. If you're my DA and we've worked together, and she worked with me a year in this case, and you pull the rug out, you tell me about it. Don't tell my partner about it. I mean, how chicken shit can you get? That really turned me off.
You said she treated me bad too.
Well, yeah, this is right about the Simpson thing. Wow. So when Phil came to me, At the crime scene, we knew we had a lot of high-profile case going on. Phil and her worked, I think, the first no-body DNA case with a conviction in L.A. County or in the state before. So he knew her. She's taking nothing away, but she's very bright.
Yeah.
She's a hell of a prosecutor when she wants to prosecute. But if you're going to play games with the evidence, you better tell your people who are working for you what's going on. And she didn't do that. So Phil said, we need a warrant now. Let me get Marcia. And we're still at the crime scene. The media's showing up. I said, fine, I don't like it, but fine, go ahead and do what you got to do, because we need a DA. Because we're not going to get anywhere without warrants now, and the media's going to be all over this. So he took off and went to get Marcia. I was a little suspicious of that, but when you come along and somebody is a witness right in the middle of this crime, with all this publicity, and she calls you a hostile witness, what the hell for? Even if you're a hostile witness, I'm not going to piss you off any more than I already have. But she did, and she turned, and that just, when that happened, that turned everything around. And then when you don't put all the evidence on, ask yourself as the investigator, what the hell is going on? Well, what's going on is it's police on trial. We all knew that. They can't do anything about all this evidence, so what do you do next? You go after the cops. It's usually effective, and it was effective here.
And did you see it the same way? Like you're watching, saying to yourself, "This is going on. This is not the right thing that's going on." Or if you watched it,
I didn't watch it. In the beginning, I can remember because OJ happened before the Stalker, and I remember being out in Diamond Bar. That was the 8th of August. In our case, an executive from our department came through, and he says, "Gil, have you been watching the O.J. case?" And I said, "Well, I saw in the beginning." He says, "What do you think about the way LAPD's handling it?" And I said, "They're doing a lot better job than we would do." I said, "They're keeping people out of their crime scene." I said, "We can't keep executives out of our crime scenes. And somebody's got to tell the sheriff to make an announcement to keep people out of our crime scene." I said, "They're doing a good job." And so I didn't in the murder business, at least from my perspective, you didn't really much care about anybody else's case. You focused all your time on your case. Right. You didn't have time to worry about anybody else's work.
I'm just curious how it works, because you get the first Ramirez crime, basically. So it's sheriffs, you're on it. But then he commits the crime, say, 2 months later in a different part of LAPD or Los Angeles. How do 911 calls work? Like, who gets dispatched? And then when would you get the call to go out there and think, hey, this might be connected? I'm just curious how all that works.
911 calls go to either fire or police station, wherever they're going to go to. All they do is send patrol cars out there. Patrol cars get there. If it's our jurisdiction, somebody's dead, it's going to come through our office. We have one office, and that's the way it's going to go. If it's through, say, Arcadia contracts through the sheriff's department for their homicide work. And other cities do the same thing. So it'll all come through our office eventually. And then it's up to our office to decide which detectives are going to send out there.
As far as that goes, when they get another jurisdiction involved, somebody's got to say something. Somebody's got to step forward and make a decision. Gil was responsible, I think, for a lot of that, saying, hey, wait a minute, we got to get together with this other agency. Somebody's got to make that decision. Again, with the bureaucracy, a lot of the people above you are afraid to make that decision. Sure. They don't want to do it. You need a personality like this guy to say, wait a minute, that's bullshit. We're going to get together, we're going to talk, we're going to solve these cases. Let me do my job. That's the one thing I really liked about what we did for a living. Usually we got left alone because nobody understood homicide and they were afraid of it. They didn't know what the hell was going on, nor did they want to know. So you let him handle it, take over, and that's what he did. That's where you get success. That's where cases get solved, when somebody takes over. And that's what Gil did in Ramirez case.
In your day-to-day, so if you go down to your office, you're at the police, wherever you're at, downtown Parker Center, right?
At the time, office. Yeah, it was Parker Center.
So do you actually go down there every day and report on a case, or are you on an ongoing, if there's nothing going on, a case is directed towards you? Because in LA, it's murder, every day?
Oh, yeah.
So every day, someone has a case going on, whether you're going to get picked or not, and the same for you. It depends on what happens on that day. correct?
Well, it's different. They have centralized homicide. L.A. now does have centralized homicide in the 4 bureaus. There's four centralized bureaus now. Every 10, 20 years, they seem to change it for some reason or another. But the first call would go out to the division. And if it's a high-profile case, if there's going to be a lot of time, a lot of evidence involved, a lot of notoriety, you probably want someone from RHD to handle it. Doesn't mean we're any better than anybody else, or we would try harder than anybody else. But they don't have the time, usually, in these other divisions. 1992, we had 1,092 homicides in the city of L.A. Sheriffs had hundreds more. We had over 1,000 just for 106 homicide cops to handle. They would handle a lot of them that weren't overly time consuming. But if you get an O.J. Simpson or you get a serial killing case, they don't have the time or the facilities or anything else to handle a serial killer. That was the one thing that we were able to do, and I think we had 16 folks working these cases. But again, it's about somebody taking forward and taking responsibility and getting stuff done.
Sure. And when you mention that, it takes a strong personality to do it. When, like, take the OJ time frame. You're 20 plus years into your career, very established, robbery and homicide, the elite of the elite. Gil, you were a little younger when you had to, like, kind of force your way with Ramirez, right? And get people to listen to you.
That's what made it really difficult, because I was a youngster.
Yeah.
I was still the kid up in homicide.
Did you feel like you had no choice? Like, if this is going to get done, man, they're going to hear from me. I'm going to express myself regardless of what that means.
I kept, I could understand why people didn't believe me, in me, and what I was saying in the beginning, because he was different. Nobody had ever been documented doing what he was doing in criminal history. And I was saying, this is one guy doing it. And I was told that I was everything from I was a young punk Mexican trying to make a name for myself to, I had my head in my ass. I didn't know what I was talking about. And eventually, you just keep going. I had the guy that broke me in homicide, Don Garcia, a dear friend of mine. I was best man at 2 out of 3 of his marriages, so we're good.
It's a bad track record.
But that's a pretty good batting average in baseball.
Yeah, it is.
3.
I remember number 3 come along. He says, Gil, I want you, but goddamn. I said, well, come on, Don. 2 out of 3, I can't be that bad.
Well, more bad luck at that point.
And that one, and Don, that one lasted. He just passed away a couple of years ago, and that one lasted. So it was all good. So I had maybe 3 or 4 people in the bureau that believed in me. And one that was extremely important to me was a guy that wasn't even working murders on a regular basis. He was getting ready to retire. He was an old throwback to the 40s. I mean, he wore wingtips with taps on them still, folded up short sleeve shirts, either had a chew of tobacco in there, or he had a cigar. And always, young man, I want to tell you, young man. And he worked from 6 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon every day. He was working unsolved cases. He'd take off his gun and his beeper, because that's what we had back then. He'd take them off and go home. That's what he did. He called me up Saturday night before Easter Sunday, and I was at my mom's house. And I just hear my mom saying, "It's for you." And she gave me the phone. I said, "Hello." He says, "Young man, this is Charlie Gunther." He says, "And I'm just here to tell you that you've got a look in your eye that I haven't seen around in this bureau in years." He says, "You got the eye of a tiger." He says, "And I'm ready to put my gun belt back on. I got my beeper on, and I'm here to tell you that I'm ready to go to work for you. You just call me with whatever you want. I'm ready to go." And I said, God damn, I was emotional. I was choked up. Here's a senior guy coming down on me like this. And I said, "Charlie, how did you find me?" I'm at my mom's. He says, "Because I'm an investigator and a goddamn good one. Don't you ever forget it, kid." And I said, "Yeah." And I was emotional. I told my wife that was Charlie Gunther, and he called. So there weren't a lot of people there. But then after, and Frank, quite honestly, didn't have much confidence in the beginning. We weren't partners. He was my acting lieutenant for a while, and he didn't have that confidence. And we started working together. Then he finally realized, it was a serial killer.
Yeah.
The only thing Charlie didn't say to you was one thing.
What's that?
Someday, kid, they're going to name a sandwich after you. Someday, kid, you are going to have your own
play your cards
sandwich.
right.
Had you known.
You go get that Ramirez.
You got that look in your eye of the tiger,
Yeah.
and also roast beef.
I'm going to tell you one Charlie Gunther story. I ran Baker to Vegas. That was a 20-man relay.
Baker to Vegas.
And I had lost about 80 pounds to run that race. And everybody said, "You're not going to do it." I said, "I'm going to fucking do it."
You ran Baker to Vegas?
Well, it
Not
was
during the summer, I hope.
It was a 20-man relay.
Got it.
So 20 people started in Baker, ended up in Vegas. So I ran it the first time, and it was great. Now the second year, we had Nelson Yamamoto got murdered. He was an on-duty cop, got killed over in Sentry's area. And I was working the case. Baker to Vegas is coming up this next weekend. Sunday night, I'm out there, and all week long, we're burning the midnight oil, trying to solve it. We knew who the suspect was. We're looking for him now. And on Friday night, he's found in New York. We did a special America's Most Wanted on Thursday. We did it for
This is
us.
great.
So on Friday, they find him in New York. Somebody saw the American Most Wanted. He was the owner of an apple orchard. He called into New York, says, "Hey, that guy that you're looking for, he used to work for me over here. He just called me up, needs another job. He's going to be by today at 3 o'clock. They went down there, and they got in a shootout, and they killed him.
Jeez.
He got a shootout at the guy's store when he went back for the job for?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
They called New York. NYPD went over there, and they met him, and he met with a tragic ending. So they called us up, and they said, "Gil, you can go ahead and go to Vegas." And I said, well, they said, "Go ahead and go. You've been busting your ass where you go." So I go over there. Don Garcia again, Saturday morning. He was the captain of the team. He says, "Hey, you going to run?" I said, "Shit, I don't know, man. I'm exhausted. I've been going all week long. I haven't had much sleep." I said, "Give me an hour. I'm going to go to the gym." So I went to the gym. I come back, and I said, "I'll run." And I had the last leg. They call it the Cadillac because you're going to run across the finish line. So I'm running. I'm about 3 miles into this, and the chase car's coming up next to me, and he says, "Gil," he says, "you ain't looking good." And I said, "I don't feel good." And so they got an alternate runner, took me over, put me in the car, and he took it in.
I think that's called cheating.
That night, Charlie Gunther comes up to me, and he says, "Young man," he put his arm around me. He says, "Young man, I heard what you did. After working all week long, you showed what esprit de corps is. You stood up to the team. You manned up like nobody else I've ever seen." He says, "It's just a shame that you'll always be remembered as a quitter."
Oh, that's funny, man. Boy, I'll tell you what, man. He's got some good lines, Charlie. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah. Tom, you had it. I mean, obviously, Gil's partner that solved Richard Ramirez in the Night Stalker is Frank Salerno, who was the guy that solved the Hillside Strangler, right? Going on at a time when you were roaming, that was part of your jurisdiction too. Did you see Frank, his old partner? Did you know him? Did you ever work with him?
No, I never worked with him. I did, like you said, I was doing a couple other things at the time because I think we had 6 or 7 different serial killers at that time going on. Overall, sheriffs were part of a lot of these. Overall, I think there were like 22 cases from the late 70s into the 90s. And with other agencies involved. That's where, again, when we talk about somebody's got to come in and do something and make some decisions. And a lot of times that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm impressed. I was from the green room. I could hear the sound coming in when Tom was being recorded earlier. I'm impressed at his memory and the statistical data that he remembers. I'm too simple-minded. I can't remember any of that shit. I don't write anything down.
It's crazy because I mean he has recall that's just unbelievable for the details and the amount of cases that he's been on and just the and he's got the files that he brings in and everything.
As a matter of fact, during the filming on the Netflix documentary that we did, the director, we were having lunch one day and he said, "Gil, I've never met anybody with recalls such as you for detail and everything." And he said, "I got to ask you, how do you do it?" I just looked at him. I said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yes, I'm serious." I said, "Okay. See the color of that skin?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "That tells you I'm Mexican." I said, that should also tell you that I'm not smart enough to know how I do it. It just happens. Shit. I don't know. I didn't study this shit.
Well, the other thing, too, is maybe you used up so much cloud space for Night Stalker, right, where you remember everything about that, and some of the other cases are a blur after a while.
I should have wrote all that stuff down. That way you could have written a damn book.
Yeah, see?
Or 3.
Yeah, question for both of you guys is, do you ever have someone, you interview someone, a victim from the family of someone that's been murdered, and that makes you want to work harder? I'm sure you work hard in every case, but is there someone that you've met that tells you this story and you go, for instance, in the Toolbox murder, they play the tape of the young girl that gets killed. They show this to the jury, and that just gotta, just hearing that story, makes you want to, like, we got to catch this. We got to catch these killers. So is there something that just motivates you? It's like, of damaging someone's family, the victims that have come to you, or do you treat them all like, we're going to catch these people no matter what they're set up?
You put all, in my case, I put all of them the same. As a matter of fact, the first one, Dale Okazaki, on March 17th, Maria Hernandez was a surviving victim. And I was inside the house. We were silhouetted on the inside. Yeah, on the Night Stalker case. We're lit up. We're silhouetted in the living room, and outside it's dark, so they can see in, but I can't see out. And deputy comes up and he says, "Hey, Gil, the mother of Maria Hernandez wants to talk to you." And I said, "Okay, tell her, give me 2 more minutes. I'm just finishing up on this measurement right here, and I'll go outside and talk to her." And he opens the door, and I hear somebody say, "Gilbert, is that you?" And I'm sitting there to myself, yeah, I'm Gilbert, but I'm too cool to be called Gilbert. Everybody calls me Gil now.
Better than Dilbert.
Yeah, better than Dilbert, the cartoon character. So I said, "Yes, it is." She goes, "It's me, Pumpkin." And I said, "Pauline?" And she goes, "Yes." Pauline lived 2 or 3 doors down from me. Maria was her daughter. My parents had baptized Maria. And Pauline and I had a long talk after, and I assured her we're going to do everything we can. But there was no pressure to work that one harder than any other murder.
But you're connected.
Yeah, but we were connected. I remember during the case asking Frank, "Is it wrong for me to want somebody else dead?" Because we needed more evidence. I wanted another clue. I wanted something. And I'm not calling the shots who's going, but I want him to make a mistake, and we wanted something going. So they were all the same. It didn't matter that she was a family friend or not.
When you got Ramirez, did you see her again after?
I saw Maria.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I saw Maria during trial, sure.
Okay.
See, that's a good point. There are no unimportant witnesses. They're all important because you never know what they're going to say. And you re-interview and you re-interview and then you re-interview. Sooner or later, you're going to get something if you dig deep enough. Unless you enjoy what you do and you want to do that, then don't. Mm-hmm. You got to be patient. Sooner or later, you got to get something. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Gil feels the same way. There's not a murder that's ever been committed that can't be solved. Sure. Someone always, 100%, knows something. You got to find that person. You got to get something out of them. 100%. It's there, and that's how you got to think. If you don't, then do something else.
Yeah, you guys did not get into this line of work to become famous, but because you're so damn good, and these are 2 of the top 5 biggest crime stories that have ever happened. So you're going to attain a level of fame. When did you both know, okay, my life's changing? Something's shifted here. This story is so big. It's not going to be how it used to be. Was there ever a moment like that?
I don't know about Gil. I think it's the same as me. I don't think that way. You're going to handle what you get assigned. You're going to do what you have to do. The tail's not going to wag the dog here. You're in charge, and you got to be in charge of your own emotions and your own life before you can be in charge of any investigation. You know what you're doing. You have the experience. You have confidence in yourself. You're going to do the right thing, and you can't let outside influences like the media and anything else affect what you do, because chances are it's not going to be accurate anyway. Mm-hmm. And so you just got to concentrate on what you have in front of you and forget the rest.
I think with me, it was a little different in that it made life easier for me because now I had less obstacles in the bureaucracy questioning what I wanted to do. Now all I had to say is, hey, I need this. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you got anything you wanted, and it made it
Little
much
more
easier
clout.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gave me a little juice card.
But also it hurts you guys as far as your pictures in the paper now. People know you. Criminals know who you are. That's got to affect you. It's like they know my face because I know that prosecutors, they put criminals away. They don't want people to know where they live and what they look like sometimes. So they know who you are now. Does that ever worry you that, they know Tom Lange, hey, they know Gil Carrillo?
It can. You just have to be careful. Remember John Helbin?
Mm-hmm.
Well, John was one of our guys. He's no longer with us, but he was working a case, and somebody came in his backyard one night and shot into his home and took off. And I don't think he ever solved that thing because he was working a case that he had some concern on. These things do happen.
Yeah.
But they happen to people other than cops. I mean, it's just something that you're aware of. If you don't want to do it, then you're not going to be a homicide cop or a cop, period. Look at the stuff with ICE officers today. I mean, they're going after these ICE officers, and they're masked up for a reason. If you got a glass ass, you don't walk where it's slippery, the old saying. It's just part of the deal.
I just never let it, I can't live in fear all my life. So when I was a young jail deputy, part of the Manson family was in there. And a guy's name was Kenny Como, who was one of the Manson followers. They had him in an isolated area, and he'd sit there and they'd say, Creo, he says, I know what kind of fucking car you drive. I know which way you drive home. Here's your license plate number. He had people on the outside watching, and I was a young jail deputy going from jail to home. And he knew it then. So I was aware that they could get anything they wanted. Right. Ramirez, we found some footprints between August 8th and when he was arrested, we found some footprints around my house. And this was right after he had hit in Diamond Bar. And we had come back from Mission Viejo, and there were muddy footprints where there shouldn't have been muddy footprints. This was after he had dumped the Avia shoes. And so it wasn't right. So I ended up getting some surveillance, on my house. They were watching the house, making sure that I was protected. And my family, they were gone most of the time now. They were, matter of fact, on August 8th, they moved out. And so I was concerned. But I've never been concerned. I've done a lot of television stand-up at murder scenes and whatnot. First time I saw Richard, he knew exactly who Salerno and I were. Mm-hmm. And between the two of us. And he told deputies in the jail that he knew where I lived. And it was not 5 minutes away from where he killed in Diamond Bar.
That's kind of a frightening little goosebumps there.
But you can't live in fear,
right? Completely,
because there'll be another threat the next day.
Certainly knowing where you live, though, it's a scary.
Usually,
thought.
if someone threatens you or they say something, it's bullshit. Okay, they're trying to get to you. It's the ones that don't say anything that you got to be concerned with.
I get that. The eras of when you guys were doing what you did and the era now are very different. Technology right now, police are looked at differently by the public in some cases. To be successful when you guys were at the top of your game, man, it takes street smarts, it takes work ethic, it takes doing the things behind the scenes, getting sources, relationships. Now there's so much technology. Are you glad you worked in the era that you did? Or I mean, you got to look at it because you're still alive, right? I mean, and it's changed a lot since then.
I don't think I would be. I don't know about Gil, what he thinks about this, but I don't think I'd be hired today. I was a type, and I know Gil's the type, that if you want me to do this job, leave me the hell alone, and I'll get it done. If I don't, then you can either dump me or I'll leave. But leave me alone. And my department, for the most part, when they got over all initial BS, they did exactly that. And I only had one chief, and that was Daryl Gates, who would ever come down on my level like we're doing right now. Yeah. If we had a high-profile case, he'd call down. He says, I want so-and-so in my office 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we're going to talk. And that was the last totally autonomous chief we had. And you would tell him, and he says, okay, none of this. I don't want you doing this. I don't want you going over here. I don't want you talking to this person. I don't want this. He just wanted to know what you're going to do. And he was there to back you up. That was the last time. He left in 1992.
Yeah, like after the riots, right?
Yeah. And we haven't had anybody like that since.
Right.
There's too much damn politics, and I don't know that I would want to be a part of that today. I just don't.
That's the same way Schoenblock was. If he'd hold a meeting, And he'd say, I want Gil and Frank in there. And then we'd let all the executives go in, and he'd say, we're the only two guys that know what the fuck's going on around here. And then Gil and Frank, I want you up front. And that's the way he was. We could go, we had anything we wanted, and through him. At one point in time, we had this via shoe print. And so one of his executives, the undersheriff, said, get a copy of it and put it up at IRC. That way the young deputies could see it in case somebody gets arrested and they're wearing the shoe. And we said, we don't want to do that. Fuck, young jail deputies will go around talking to everybody saying, hey, I'm working on this thing now and this is what he's after. And so it's no longer a secret. And we got word. He said, put it up there. So we gave it to him. He said, we're ordered to do it. We go in there and he said, well, what else has been going on? Well, nothing. And I told the sheriff, well, they now have a picture of the via shoe print up at the jail. And he says, whose bright fucking idea was that? And I didn't want to tell him, you're number two guy.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. We were just told to do it, boss. Yeah. And so he was all in favor of whatever we wanted. When Feinstein made her
blunder,
made her soul rest and not in peace. Yeah. When that happened, we had just come back from San Francisco that day and saw this. We went back up into our office. We were just walking in. Our public relations or news media people said, hey, Gil, Frank, look at this. And she's on her. She said what you did. I said, fuck. We go upstairs, and we're up there about 15 minutes. I said, Frank, let's get the fuck out of here. This is bullshit. I may as well go fishing. So fishing wasn't available because we're too far, so we went down to Chinatown.
Okay.
Code 7?
No, we didn't go to the Code 7.
One now.
We went to Emi Lou's right down the street. That was
a couple of them.
Good.
So we went down to Emi Lou's, and our captain happened to be in there. And we're telling him, God damn it, you got to do something. You got to get to the sheriff. You got to talk to him. You got to do this. You got to do that. Please help us out. And we're sitting there we're starting to pop now. We're going to get in our cups. And so he leaves. And he calls up about 20 minutes later, and he says, okay, stop drinking, get some dinner, and be back in the office at 8 o'clock tonight. So we went back, and Sherm Block flew in. He had been at some hayseed festival or something going on out in Lancaster.
Yeah.
They flew him in. He held a press conference that night to go ahead and ask politicians to stay out of the case. And some information had been released that caused great damage, jeopardized the integrity of the case. And he told us no uncertain terms. We let him know that if she does it again, we'll embarrass her by name. And so he did it. So he did the same thing. And he let us have the ability to go directly from us to him if we wanted it and if we needed it. Bypass all of his minions because it's all the other executives that protect him. They surround him. Trying to get through that bureaucracy is bullshit.
They don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think they have it anymore. Now you got the mayor calling the shots for political purposes. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Did Feinstein ever do another press conference? It was that was
Plus,
it.
he
So
closed
word
it
got
pretty
out
close
there.
after that, too.
Yeah.
Put him on the run and whatever. That's got to be so frustrating that nobody could even understand when you're out there working and then you got people out of your control that are slowing you down. And there's nothing you could do about it, right? You can complain, but it has to make your job just tougher, right?
Well, it does, obviously. Again, if you got the wrong person in charge, you're going to pay the price. We see this all the time. We see it all the time. And then what comes after that? The cover-up. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Well, we wanted to do this and we wanted to do that, but it didn't look good. Leave us alone to do the damn job. And I just think there's probably more of that today than there was then.
Yeah. I think also with technology, this is why it also, I think, decreases serial killers. They don't, we have killings now, people driving cars into crowds. It's different. It's different now. It's like, I'm sure there are serial killers, but think about it.
They are. They're just staying. They're staying up with technology just like we are.
Yeah.
They're staying right on top of cops. They follow everything. Yeah. They're not dumb. They're.
Do you think back when you were working cases, did you ever find a murderer or killer or serial killer having the police radios? Is that a common thing? Because the scanner to know what's going.
I never did.
No, not really.
Because that would help, right?
Well, it depends. That's usually more of an instantaneous thing. Like a lot of like Kearney, they plan these things out. He had an IQ of 130, I guess it was, and he would plan all of these things out. He didn't need a scanner. A lot of them know exactly what they're doing, how they're going to do it. The few exceptions are, the Skid Row killers and those type of people who just do it on impulse. So you don't know what you have. So you get it's wide open.
My father always said, if my IQ hits 50, he said, sell. Did I just make fun of myself
shorted
again?
it. He made a lot of money.
I got my sandwich and my IQ. I better get out of here.
Yeah, you guys are attached to these big cases, and people think they know you because they've seen the interviews, the Netflix docs, and everything that you guys have been in. But I mean, that's maybe a fraction of your career in the cases. What? And some people think that's glamorous, chasing down Ramirez and the Night Stalker, O.J. Wonderland killings, all the things that you guys did. What was the normal day like? You show up to work, you get assigned something, or they'll call you in the middle of the night and you got to go chase somebody in the hood or do whatever. I'm sure there was never the same thing twice, but people think of the glamour of getting these big criminals, but what was the real job like?
Well, you can get assigned 500 homicides, and you can have a serial killer. They can be very similar. There's no two killings that ever been exactly the same.
So explain that, though. You're assigned 500 homicides.
No, I'm saying if you were.
Okay.
There's no two alike. Everything is a different adventure, you might want to say. They're all going to be different. You have to treat them differently. 1 and 1 is 2. 2 and 2 is 4. If that doesn't add up, you better go back and do it again. Again, to me, I've always enjoyed a challenge, the puzzle thing. We all like to do those things. If you don't want to be challenged, then you don't want to be a homicide cop. If you're going to be a bump on the stump, then you're going to have to move along because you're not going to do it damn good at all. You got to care. Again, back then, we were left alone. And if anything got done, it got done because you did it. Nobody else is going to do it and tell you what to do. Like I told you about the people I wanted to be homicide cops until their first homicide, until their first visit to the coroner's office, until the first person out there questioned what they did. You're always going to be questioned. You're going to be called every name in the book. You're going to be accused of everything. If that bothers you, then you got a problem.
Yeah.
To follow up what Tom said about they leave you alone, I remember it was unheard of on my department when I got promoted to lieutenant. They said, we're sending you back to homicide. Normally, a brand new lieutenant goes either to patrol or to custody or someplace else. You don't get to go to homicide. Right. They said, you're a round peg in a round hole. They need your experience up there right now, so we're going to send you back to homicide. So I went back up, and a lot of these guys I had worked with, we were investigators together, and, we're friends, we're buddies. We go out together, and I was kind of getting the cold shoulder. And so I called for a team meeting, and I said, listen, I come back up here, and all of a sudden, I'm getting kind of the cold shoulder. I said, you guys are apprehensive. You think that because I know the business, I'm going to be a micromanager, and I'm going to be all over your stuff. And there, I could see a few heads nodding. I said, well, let's get this straight. I know this business better than anybody in this room, and you're right. I said, but I've learned anything sitting on your side of the desk is that the last thing you need is someone like me, a lieutenant, telling you what to do. Everybody in here is an expert, and I won't even give you an opinion unless you ask for it. I said, your job, work your cases, just keep me abreast of what's going on so I can let the captain know if it's something important. And we don't tell the captain everything. Keep something in case we got nothing to tell him tomorrow, we can give him something from yesterday. I said, I do your valuations, I sign your overtime, so that's all I do. You guys do the work. I live vicariously through you. So once we got that straightened out,
It was it.
it was
Right.
it. And I never bothered these guys. They know what they're doing.
I wanted to know, how the hell did you become a chief of police? Where did that come from?
I was off, and I just told my
San
wife.
Fernando.
Yeah, exactly.
I was off, and just this morning I was telling my wife, because I heard an old friend of mine, Nick Rampone, he wanted the job over there.
Yeah.
I didn't want the job. I get calls from some headhunter. Hey, listen, your name has come up. They're looking for somebody with integrity, and they want it from your department and a lieutenant, and and he says, and your name keeps popping up. and told me about it. And I said, okay, well, thank you very much. It gives me the warm fuzzies, but I'm really not interested. Geographically undesirable. You're way out in the West Valley, and I'm way out in the east end of San Gabriel Valley. I said, I'm not interested. And he said, well, how about humoring us? How about meeting for lunch? And I said, okay, what, talking next week? He said, no, how about tomorrow? I said, okay, tell me where. I got gas. He said, we'll come to you. So they came from the valley out to the Puente Hills Mall. There's a BJ's over there. So had lunch at BJ's. So the mayor's going to be there. And the mayor got there and he said, by the way, I've got the city manager on the way over here. And I said, hey, this is an informal meeting. And I said, informal meeting. And he says, yeah, informal. So we sat there and talked and told me everything about it. And I said, I'm really not interested.
Playing hard to get, Gil.
I didn't want the
Price went
job.
up. Yeah.
Right.
And I said, and he said, what? I said, listen, Mr. Mayor, if I got, and the guy, the headhunter cuts in, he says, listen, I told you Gil's a man of integrity. It's going to be his way or the highway. And I said, Mr. Mayor, I couldn't put it any plainer than that. That's it. If I go take your job, if you gave me any shit, if the city manager gave me any shit, if the citizens didn't like me and gave me shit, I'd quit. I won't take your shit. I said, that's the way it's got to be, And he says, okay. And he said, we'll have a meeting. What are you doing Monday? I said, Monday I can't. I got a thing for, I was going to talk to a high school. I said, I can't go. And he says, Tuesday. I said, Tuesday night I'll be home. He said, okay, we'll give you a call Tuesday night. He calls me up and he says, hello, Chief. And that was it. And so this guy, this friend of mine, Nick Marpone, he calls me up and he says, hey, how did you get that job? I've been trying to get the job. And I said, you really want to know the truth? And he says, yeah. He says, okay. I said, I got a phone call from a headhunter. I was sitting on the edge of my bed scratching my crotch. And that's about it.
He wanted the details.
Yeah, and that's about it. That's how I got the job. The police union didn't want me because they thought I was in bed with the city council. Their city council was it was not nice. And
Did you get bored?
No,
Job?
no, I didn't I got fired.
Oh, I didn't know that.
How long did it last?
Oh.
Yeah, 3.5 months.
And why'd you get fired?
Well, they say because they were going to take a different direction. What happened was
You
the
pissed
guy
somebody off.
over there. Oh yeah, the mayor that hired me. He was a male. There was a city councilwoman on there. He and her were having an affair. He's married. She's not, but he was married.
I think I've seen this video at a Coldplay concert.
Yeah, exactly. They were going to. They announced publicly. He found out, and the editor of the local paper was the brother of his wife. So he got the news media out there. He got word they're going to do it. So he announced publicly to the public, yes, we've been seeing this. We've been doing this. He's the guy that ramrodded getting me hired. Okay, so now, and he used to tell his wife, I'm going to a retreat. And the retreat would be him and her, his girlfriend, and they'd go out for the weekend.
4 treats.
Yeah, 4 treats. Well, now he tells his girlfriend, hey, I forgot to tell you, I've got a retreat this weekend. And she says, you lying piece of shit. That's what you used to tell your wife who you see. He says, no, it's a real retreat. She says, no, it's not. This is over with. I want my laptop back. Hey, you gave me that. That's mine. And so she went over, and I get a phone call. Chief, Mayor. He says, I need some advice. What's your advice? He says, well, so-and-so just come down, and she broke into my house, and she got the thing, and she started beating me. I got bruises, and she broke a picture I had on the wall where I'm living at. And I said, okay. He says, so what do I do? I said, you wait right there. I'm sending a radio car down your house right now and take a report. Now you're telling me because of O.J., this domestic violence is big. Get documented right now. And we're going to do it right away. And you better be careful because she may be going home calling the cops to go take her side of the story. So he went down, took his story, got it, told my guys, I don't want this leaking out to the press. Just get it, slide it underneath my drawer, my door to the office, and I'll deal with it in the morning. Nobody knows about this. So I go in the next morning, I call in my detectives. I said, here it is. You know who it is? Yeah, we know who it is. Fuck yes. So they write it up. I said, call her up, see if you can get her to come on down and make a statement. I doubt if she will, but, at least give it a try, then just present it to the DA. The DA, she calls up. She can't do it. She's got an attorney now. The DA said they're going to get it. She comes out. They want me to bury it. They want me to get rid of this thing. She's a councilwoman. She says, the mayor called me. She says that this has happened before, and the old chief just swept it under the carpet. I said, this ain't the old chief. I said, it ain't going to be swept. I told you that I'd be just as dirty as what you say these cops are, and they're not. I said, not up to me. It's going to the DA for presentation. They filed on her, and she went down. She created over the weekend. She went down to where the retreat was. Or really created a scene up there.
Wow.
And so they filed on her, and they called for an emergency council meeting, and the city manager called me up, and he says, I already told him, hey, you want to talk to me? Call me over to your office. Don't come. The guys don't like you guys over there. Stay out of my office. Stay out of the station unless you have to. And I went over there, and he says, Gil, I'm sorry to tell you this, but, they went behind closed doors last night. They had a closed door meeting. I said, wait a minute. Are you going to tell me that they fired me? And he says, well, yeah, they have no longer. And I just said, there's fucking,
Jesus.
I said, I take this as a badge of honor because I wouldn't roll for them.
Right.
I didn't want this job in the beginning. They gave it to me.
Can you believe this? You chase the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, and you got these wackos that are making your life more difficult. Than
Those are small agency problems. For some reason, it's never the big ones. It's always the small ones.
They think they're congressmen. Politics. And so then the media went after, they said, hey, why is Gil gone? And all they said was, we believe we're going in a different direction now. They were going through budget cuts, so we've let him going in a different direction, and that was it. And I really didn't care. My wife and I had a date that night. We were going to a Dodger game, and at the Dodger game, the head of security then was a guy that used to run the races in through the desert before it wasn't Vegas to Vegas, Death Valley Run.
Yeah, that was Death Valley before Vegas.
And it was a Death Valley run. And so he was running it. He was getting ready to retire. And a guy comes up to me, a friend of mine. He says, Gil, remember I told you that he was getting ready to retire? And he said, yeah. He said, I told him all about you. Hey, he really liked to talk to you about it, about taking over head of security for Dodger Stadium. Wow. And I'm saying, well, shit. Now I'm a Dodger fan. Yeah. Now we're talking. And I looked at my wife, and he says, come on. I'll take you up there right now. He's up there. And I look at my wife, and she just looked at me. She says, really, Gil? You just got fired from one job, and now you want to, we're here for the Dodgers, and you want to go talk about another job? And I said, well, maybe tonight's not a good night, so we'll just let it go.
Well, that's a date night. Can you imagine? Hey, the last thing you want is head of security at a Dodger game as a Dodger fan. You'll be watching the game. Stuff, that'd be crazy. That's a big job.
So what happened? So did it not? Never happened, right?
I never happened. I never went back, never talked to him, let it go.
That's a great story.
I can't believe we've been talking for an hour. This is unbelievable how fast this goes. We're going to probably have one more episode with these guys, but I want to ask you this. I watch a lot of cop shows. I watch a lot of interrogation videos on YouTube. I'm fascinated by them. And, with everybody, we all know that prison's a horrible place and that detectives are pretty smart and that, there's cameras everywhere. I'm just still shocked how many people commit murder and think they're getting away with it or that they will. What's your experience been? Crime of passion, something that just happened, self-defense as opposed to people going out there and just killing somebody?
Well, first off, I don't believe people think they're going to get caught. That's why they do it, whether it's a passion, gangs, dope, business, whatever it is. They just don't think they're going to. Murder is an irrational act followed by acts of rationality. So it's irrational for you to take someone's life, but then the rational thing to do is now cover it up, hide it, get away. But people talk, and they just don't think they are. And I listened to through the speakers in the system when you were talking to Tom and talk to people, and I take it on as a challenge. And I learned from a guy named Bob Morneau, Robert Morneau, who's a retired FBI agent. I took 2 semesters at Cal State from him, advanced criminal investigations pertaining to sex crimes, and used the word understanding. And I heard either Tom or Tom use the word understanding, and that's what he predicated everything on. If you understand that people do everything for a reason, you don't condone it, but they do it for a reason. If you can understand it, it makes it easier to talk to people and I've never once. I haven't had to yell or scream or do anything like that to anybody. And Richard certainly. He never heard me say anything bad, and we got along. And it's much easier to get people to open up and talk to you like that.
That's all TV stuff. Is interrogation. Give me a quick story. Years ago, I was working with Phil, and we had a jewelry store in the valley that got knocked over. These two guys went in there, and one of them pulled a gun out on the owner and said, "Do as I say," and everything else. The guy walked in behind him, pulled the bag out with a crowbar, and the owner, a guy by the name of Schumacher, had a violent personality. And the guy was standing there with a gun on him. We got all this in video. Pointed the gun at him. The victim, the owner of the jewelry store, ran at him, and he shot and he killed him. And then he turns the gun on the patrons and starts shooting them. And killed the one and then wounded one or two others, patrons, smashed the counter, took the jewelry, and split. Well, we got to thinking, and one thing led to another. We found a layoff car in the parking lot. I'll try to shorten up the story a little bit. So we had a lead on who we had. We printed the car and the stuff in it. It was a stolen layoff car that you take to a robbery, commit the robbery, and then you leave that car and you get into another one type of thing. So we had a print. Over the months, we made the print. We found out that these people had been hitting different jewelry stores all up and down the coast. We found one of the suspects, the shooter. We had him on tape. So we got the tape, and I wanted to blow up. So we blew it up, and we got the guy with the gun pointed right at him, at the owner, at the time of the shooting. We got him ID'd, right? No, you look a little closer. The face was all blurred. We couldn't see his face. So this is all we had. We had nothing else. Meanwhile, these guys get popped for the same type of thing. He's up in prison. I say, we got nothing else going. Why don't we go up and talk to him, see if we can BS our way around this thing? So we go up there, and I take the photo with me. We go up, he brings him out, and right away, this attitude. You want to get out? Hey, listen, asshole, this is what we're here for, you son of a bitch. You lose him.
Right.
No, this guy wants to know what's going on. He's curious.
Yeah. Need a little
hey,
finesse.
yeah, I'm so-and-so, this is so-and-so. Listen, we got this thing going. I don't know how to tell you this. I don't really want to be here. But we've got a problem. The jewelry store got hit. We know why you're here. And Ricky Samuel, Rayvon Washington, they were the two of them. This guy's name was Rayvon Washington. I said, Rayvon, it's not Detective Lange, it's Tom. This is what we got, and I just got it here, so I threw the photo out. It's an 8x10 right in front of him. I said, Rayvon, we got you on the camera right here. You see, they kind of looks down at it like this. Now, I didn't say here. I threw it right here like this. He's looking over at it, and you could just see the look on his face. Oh, shit, and he's like this. If you'd picked the damn thing up and took a look at it, you could tell who the hell it was.
Wow.
We got a cop out to everything. Huh. If we hadn't have done that, if we'd have come in there screaming and howling like a bunch of idiots, Rayvon would still be in prison on this other job. We convicted him, first-degree murder, gun enhancement, all this stuff. But he didn't look too close. Again, it's your attitude.
Yeah.
You don't go in there, interrogate. You talk to him. You say, listen, I hate to tell you this. Same thing with Simpson. We got to get to the bottom of this. I'm on the spot. This is just my job, nothing personal. Those things work. The TV stuff, no.
Yeah.
It's all bullshit.
Mm-hmm. It's a great story. Wow, that was fantastic. Anything else before we end this?
I hope they can stay longer.
Yeah, okay. This was outstanding, guys. This was so much fun. Cheers. Maybe we'll have a little bit more.
Well,
Come on, Gil, I don't mean to leave you hanging here. They wouldn't do that at Code 7. Kato, you good?
I'm good. I got to call my
How about
Uber.
one final toast? Okay.
I'm drinking out of
For
the
our
bottle.
viewers in the city of LA, we thank you guys. That was a great chat. Who knows? We might see him again.
Tom, you missed me.
Oh,
Hold on.
there we go.
All right. This was awesome. Let's load up the comments. two OGs here, just legendary stories by two legendary guys. So for Gil, Tom Lange, Kato, I'm Tom Zenner. Thanks for watching Tom Zenner Scandal, and we will see you very, very soon.